This is the Toplofty Lounge. We're in for a smooth show for you today. Oh yeah, baby. In 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, baby. Yeah, here we go. In 11, 10, 9. Oh yeah, baby. Here we come. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Toplofty Lounge, episode 39. Can you believe it's been 39 episodes? Conversations for the Elevated. Welcome to all my fellow snobs. This week, our topic for the week is weird settings in science fiction. And what we're talking about there is, sort of weird settings. Is that the right word? Maybe environments. Environments is better. Different kind of the most creative and strangest environments that various science fiction writers have come up with. And, there might be more than what I'm going to mention here today. These are some of my favorites. Hold on. Am I in a cell? Hold on. Do I have I might have the wrong audio on. Oh. Just bear with me for a minute. What is going on? There we go. All right. How's that? Is that better? All right. Thank you. Who did that? Who told me? Weatherman, always keeping me right on the keeping me on the ball there. Thanks. Appreciate that. Cam didn't mention anything in the pre-show. Thanks, Cam. Appreciate it. Speaking of Cam, let me introduce my co-host. He is the ring world to my Dyson sphere and the eon to my eternity. It's Cam. Say hello, Cam. You're muted, Cam, so you might not be able to say hello.
Oh, okay. Unfortunately, we need to address the lies told here because I specifically said that his sound was off before the show.
I must not have been listening.
Yeah, as usual. Okay, anyway, hey, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, who do we got in the chat today? We got Weatherman, of course. We've got DP is here. JT's here. Who else? K Roberts. Have we seen you before? I don't remember. Maybe some lurkers out there. If you want to, jump in and say hi, feel free to. We appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
All right. So, how was your week, Cam? Or since the last?
Kind of a blur. I've been kind of busy.
We'll watch the birds. Can relax with the birds while we're.
Sure. Well, I'll just leave it there. I did something stupid yesterday, and I'm annoyed at myself about it.
Oh no! What was that?
It was nothing serious, nothing permanent, but it's a mishap. It's going to cost me some money. So.
Oh no!
Yeah.
A lot of money or a little bit of money?
Hundreds.
Hundreds. Oh. All right. You want to keep that secret, eh? Just keep secretive.
It's not worth going into. it's a minor mishap. That's if I would have thought about something a little differently, I probably would have avoided it. But things happen.
These things happen. That is true. Okay. What did I do this week? Not much. Pretty much. It's getting prepared for these two shows it's getting more and more work. I'm having to do stuff. This was my monthly poker game this week, so I had that. They only lost a little bit of money.
It's just a monthly poker game. I thought it was weekly.
No, we go every month.
Oh.
Heck, I have trouble enough getting them guys together once a month. Never mind a week. It'd be great if it was a week, but we need more players. So it's just just a couple of guys get around. Just really low stakes, but it's fun. We enjoy it. Oh, there's Neutron in the chat too. All right, good.
Hey.
Yeah, but not much was going on with me this week. Pretty quiet. It's reading week, right? So the daughter was home during the week, so Yeah.
What's reading week?
Reading week,
Yeah.
spring break, reading
Oh,
week,
okay.
whatever you call it. Yeah.
It's okay. It's Canadian speak. I got you.
Canadian, yeah. Sometimes they call it reading week, spring break, whatever.
It doesn't look like spring for not the
It
kind of
does
spring
not, though. It's been warm the last 2 days, and some of the snow you see in the picture there has melted. So it's a lot. It's getting nicer. Maybe, I mean, fingers crossed. Maybe that's it for winter, but who knows? All right. Okay. I think that is good. Are we ready to move into the main part of the show, Cam?
Didn't we have a short segment to do first?
You want to do a short segment first? Do you want to do? Well, let's ask the chat.
As discussed.
As discussed, does the
Oh
chat?
my God!
What does the chat think? Should we have? Should Cam wants to do a tool time, toolbox?
Just a very brief little tool segment.
Tool segment. What's the chat think? Should we do a tool segment? Are you guys interested to hear about tools? I mean, like actual tools, not like useless politicians or something like that.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Okay, so some people say, all right. Awesome.
Okay, let's go.
Great.
Let's get this going.
That's great. So I see a lot of things for tools. Do what Cam says. We don't always do that. But, all right. Okay, but listen, for the tool, I've been planning on having a little, getting a little, what does Jason call it? You put a little right before the segment. You put a little thing in there. It's like 5 seconds long, something like that. But I didn't put it together yet. I haven't done it. I've been thinking about it, working on it, but I haven't actually put it down and done the thing. So we'll just do a practice one then before we do tool time. All right, you ready, Cam?
Yeah. Let's go.
All right. Let me just I'll just do your intro. Tool time. It's Cam's toolbox. Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right,
go. Let's go.
Bumper.
Bring it
That's
up.
what it's called.
Bring it up. We got visual aids here.
Okay, you ready? Bring it up. Which one you want first?
I don't care.
All right, let's get.
Well, I should. As you're fumbling around with that, I should bring up that no one is receiving any kind of kickbacks for any of this. This is all just personal views, and we're showing links that are convenient and or required for the particular thing. Okay, so the first thing I've got here.
I wish we were getting kickback.
Yeah, well, no kidding. Come on, Amazon.
Where are you, Amazon and knife people and.
Exactly. Okay, so this, which I've mentioned on shows before, I believe, this is the Victorinox Compact, which is one of the most features for the smallest size Swiss Army knives out there. As you know, I love Swiss Army knives. This is a great model. It's and the reason I'm mentioning it again is because it's listed here, and please check all the sellers yourself to confirm that they meet your criteria of reliable, but it is on Amazon. So they're listing it for $39.20, which they say is 6% off, but the actual price of this is really $59. Is like the regular price. I think the list price from Victorinox. So this is it's not the cheapest price you'll ever find for a Swiss Army knife, but for this particular model, this is an excellent price. Again, starter, great to carry in your pocket. It's not going to let you work on a car or anything like that, but it's got some beautiful features. You can see there. They're great scissors. It's got a little screwdriver. It covers the basics for everyday use. So that's nice.
Yeah, this is pretty good actually, because I saw when I was a kid I'd have Swiss Army knives, but then you get the big ones because you want to be cool, but then it wouldn't fit in your pocket and you'd fall on the ground and you'd break your hip or whatever. Yep. So this is like some perfect size. It's got all the sort of key things in it, so it looks pretty good.
Yeah, and this one it's got a few features you can't see right off. The on the hook, which is generally considered to be almost worthless to many people, it actually has a little file surface, which is good for like cleaning up like a hangnail, a little excuse me, a little sharp point on your nail or something like that. So that's a nice feature. It's on the back surface. You can't see it there, but it is there on this model only. I think it's usually not on the hook. And this one has toothpick, tweezers, and a ballpoint pen.
A ballpoint pen.
Yep.
Really?
The little, it's like the tweezer slot or whatever. It's there on the opposite side. There's a ballpoint pen.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's very, like I said, very fully highly packed for the size. This is a 2-layer. If you're familiar with Swiss Army knives, so they have different layers. This is a 2-layer.
Yeah.
So Death Angel Shadow says he likes Leatherman better. Well, I love Leatherman tools as well. And we have talked about some of those in the past. So if I do see a deal on that, I will be sure to mention it on the show. Excuse me. Okay, you want to go to the next one?
All right, the next one. Here we go. This looks cool.
Yeah. I have to admit, this is by Klein Tools, which is a company that's been around for a very long time. I have to admit that I haven't, only recently have I started getting into Klein Tools, but they've really been coming out with a lot of products lately. And this one, you see, they have this little, it's called their Connect system, which so there's a lot of modularity to it. And I'm pointing this one out again because, and it's we're showing it on Lowe's here, is because it happens to be a really good price for what you get here. It's on sale for $29.98. Usually this set has been $39.98, or about $40 US. But they're probably blowing them out because they're going to come out with something else. And that's not to say that this is going to be obsolete, because this Connect system is something they're doing. But they have different packaging of things a lot of times. About a year ago, they had the main feature of this one is a 1/4-inch socket set, and these are pass-through sockets. So if you had a long thread or something like that, it'll work on a regular nut or bolt head. And these are, English units, not metric, so you have to take that into account. But for household things and such, it'd be good. Not for most cars today. Most cars, I think, if not all cars, use metric. To even ones from the U.S. But this one, if you don't have any tools, or you don't have a socket set or anything, this one's got some flexibility, and it gets, it's called a starter set. So you have the ratchet, and you can see the different sockets there. But the sockets also work in the screwdriver handle there. So it's very modular. This is kind of one of those sci-fi-ish tools, that's you could use it in a lot of different ways.
It's a good little set, man.
Yeah, it is, and for the price, it's unbeatable. So again, just for a few common household tasks, you'll get a lot out of this. And you can see there on the left, it's got a few common screwdriver bits too. So this could basically, be a multi screwdriver and a variety of ability to drive nuts and bolts and things like that.
Yeah, you could even take this and as a second set and leave it in the truck or something like that. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cottage or the camper or whatever.
Right. I heard
$30.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. I had bought one of these previously for the $40 price, and I considered buying another one just because it was so cheap. Just to have around, because like I said, you have different cars and things and different places you can kind of toss it there. So
yeah,
there you go. And maybe in the future we'll do again this particular set is the small Connect set. They have a small and medium. And then what I'm talking about, the Connect thing, is the type of interface for socketing in. So the socket head, or the socket wrench head, and the screwdriver handle, all these things fit into that. It's their kind of their universal connection.
Yeah, what's that? What is that? The socket, the handle they're made out of. It looks like it's pretty.
It's like an acrylic plastic, but it's got a rubber. It's got a rubber overmold on it.
Oh, okay.
So pretty comfortable. Yeah, it's pretty solid. It's it's not bad.
Yeah, I think these guys should be paying us. What the heck's going on? Look at this.
Kidding.
We're selling their stuff. All right, we're good.
Yep.
All right, thanks. It's good. All right, everybody likes tool time. We make it a regular thing. Call up Lowe's, Cam. Tell them to sponsor us.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, are we ready to get into the main topic?
Sure.
All right, let's go. So today we're going to talk about weird settings in science fiction. And just so everybody knows, I mean, these are primarily my favorite weird ones. I'm sure there's lots of other weird ones out there that that you might have. Throw them in the chat if you have them. I'm willing to look at them, and we want to hear about them. So yeah, so don't feel free to do that. And we're just going to go over some of these ones and some of the cool ones. Maybe some of them will trigger you, and you'll want to read the some of these novels. But again, these are weird. These aren't just weird. I didn't go for weird stories, right? Like some stories have, they've got all kinds of weird pieces, and they throw them all in there. We're just looking at the environments that the story takes place in. So that's primarily what I'm doing. All right. Let's go move on. So the first one I'm going to talk about is something that everyone probably is aware of. Everyone knows what a ring world is, right? Everyone knows what a Dyson sphere is. Cam, do you know what a Dyson sphere is?
Yes.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, it's basically who came up? Well, Freeman Dyson, right?
Freeman
Up with this
Dyson, yeah.
This concept, and it's basically a structure that encompasses a star, and the idea is that it utilizes all the energy coming from the star.
Yes, and it's astronomically high amounts of space.
Yeah, it would have to be
star as well.
Absolutely immense.
Yeah, exactly. So what happened was Larry Niven came up with the concept of a ring world, and he's like, "Why would you make a Dyson sphere like that? Just takes, that is so, that would take so long to construct and so huge." He says, "Why not just put a ring around it?" And the ring is, I think his ring's 1,000,000 miles wide or something like that, and it could cost a fraction of the cost a fraction of the materials to build it, but yet you'd still get an astronomically large amount of people on the ring world, right? Way more than the amount we could fit on Earth. So as far as I'm aware, Niven came up with the idea of the ring world. I mean, he kind of just, hey, let's just take a piece of a Dyson sphere and do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I'm aware of, it's his idea. So the story, Ring World, there's about 5 books in the Ring World series, I think, and then he's got Niven's got a bunch of other books before the Ring World, a bunch of stuff. But okay, so the Larry Niven calls his universe a known space. So it's the set in the known space universe. He's got a bunch of different stories in there. It's a classic of science fiction. Ringworld tells the story of Louis Wu and his companions on a mission to the Ringworld. They find this, they've detected this Ringworld, an alien construct in space, basically 300 kilometers in diameter. And there's a bunch of the main storyline starts off. They go and they're investigating this Ringworld, and there's a problem with the original people who have built the Ringworld are no longer. And the people who live on the ring world has sort of devolved. They're not really aware of, the science that it takes to make the ring world or to keep it in orbit or anything like that. And there is a problem with the ring world, and it's gonna, it's unstable. Part of it's gonna crash into the sun, and which will destroy the thing, kill everybody, everything. So so that's he came up with this idea, and the ring world has become a generic term for any sort of big structure. Some people call it a big dumb object or a mega structure. It's also referenced Ian Banks, his cultural orbitals. If anyone's played any of the Halo games or watched the movies, there are Halo structures. Those are a lot smaller. They're like 10,000 miles or kilometers in diameter, but they're the same idea.
They're not in Halo. They're not around stars, are they?
No, they're too small.
Yeah.
To be around stars, they're just simply these circular structures made, of course, to destroy the flood, to fire off the the nasty beams that kill all life. So they're significantly small, like 10,000 kilometers in diameter, I think they were. So yeah, they could not. They don't fit around star. You'll see them, orbiting, beside planets and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Story. A mini ring world. I don't remember this one, but the Book of Boba Fett season 1 episode 5, there was a mini ring world. I don't remember that. And in Star Trek Lower Decks, they had a ring world in the season 4 episode 3. I don't remember that one either, and as you can see, they're very well known, and become a staple of science fiction.
Did you mention the Dyson Sphere episode of Star Trek Next Generation?
No, I didn't mention it. But there is it's from the Next Generation, right?
Yeah, it's episode's called Relics. It's the one with Scotty where
it's the one back with Scotty. They bring Scotty back, and Scotty has crashed on the Dyson.
Yeah, on the outside
of it, I think. Right.
Yep.
And they he's hidden himself in the transporter buffer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
written by Ron Moore.
That was written by Ron Moore. That episode.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, that's it's a problem with. There's a bit of a problem with Star Trek, eh? Like if you're in the Star Trek universe and you discovered a Dyson sphere, that would be like, holy crap! Like the Federation would be all over that. There'd be a war of people fighting for that piece of real estate, right? Like to go in there and find out how they built it and everything.
Yeah, well, you want to hear nerd moment?
What's that?
Way back in around that time, I played a homebrew created Star Trek role playing game,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought we had some cool innovations in it. But one of the things was, I had basically all the players played captains of some sort, or maybe a station commander or something like that. Anyway, I said as a story hook to the game master, I said, hey, this was after the episode came out with the Dyson story. I said, what if one of us got assigned to, hey, we're gonna explore this thing, that's a campaign basically around figuring out about Dyson sphere. Now in the episode they had to think about like, oh, it was unstable or something, and they were going to die if they stayed in there, but you could wave your arms and get around that in some form or fashion. But I thought it'd be a cool basis for a story.
Yeah, for sure. Weatherman, one thing, your point is well taken about solar flares, but with the ring world is built out at a distance from the star. It would be the same distance as, for example, for Earth, it would be the same distance as Earth is from the sun, so that we would get, and it would spin and we would get the same gravity, relatively same amount of light could be the same distance away. So it would basically, the ring world in, our solar system would be set up to be around where the orbit where Earth is. So, your solar flare system would be less of a problem. But Niven gets around that because he has these things called the what do they call them? They have these squares. So in order to get, you don't have any night and day. So at a certain distance from the ring world towards the inner part is kind of like a second ring, and it has these squares, and the squares are spaced apart, so you get a 24-hour 12 hours shift to your day, your night cycle.
It's like Mr. Burns' sunshade.
Yes, kind of like that. But they're just squares. If you can see in this picture, this is you can see there's some dark and light spots going off in the distance, and that would be like, and you can see there's night at the very bottom of the picture. So that's where the squares would cut the light coming in. And actually, I believe in one of the stories, I'm not sure if it's the first one, but definitely one of the later ones, there is a problem, and there was a solar flare thing, and the squares actually move together to block that the solar radiation from hitting the base of the ring world. And I forget what the ring world is made out of. I forget, they coin a name for it. I forget what it is.
It's made with magic.
Well, they come up with a name of it, but it's really, really strong material, and it's basically, almost impossible to break through it. So it is really tough. Yeah. Those squares help with solar flares too. Yeah. So that's
the sun is brutal, or stars are brutal.
Yeah. So that's how, I got to give props to Niven, because he he goes through the details and he thinks of these sort of things. He goes, yeah, we're gonna need some squares, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's they don't call it unobtainium, but it's
barely obtainium.
It's really it's like 2.5 times harder than adamantium or vibranium or something. Anyway, doesn't matter. When you read the book, you'll see what it's called. It skips my mind. Okay. Anything else about Ringworld? Should we move on?
Sure.
Okay. This next one is Niven as well, and this is a little bit more bizarre. And because I'm not up on physics so much, I still don't really get how this 100% works. But there's 2 books by Larry Niven. First one is called The Integral Trees, and the second one is called The Smoke Ring. And he didn't do a third one, which if I ever see him, I'm going to ask him, hey, you're going to do it, but I don't think he's writing anymore. But anyway, okay, so I'll read this. It's up here. The story occurs around a fictional neutron star, which they locally call Voy, and the gas giant Goldblatt's world orbits the star, and the gravity is sufficient to keep its atmosphere, which is pulled loosely into independent orbit around Voy and forms a ring that is known as a gas torus. So, you know what a donut with a hole in it, right? Right? Basically, people are living in the donut part, but it's all air and stuff, right? Like, and it's held together by gravity. So it's a gas torus, 1 million kilometers thick, but it's most of it's too thin to be habitable. But people do live in the habitable areas of it. So yeah, it's quite bizarre. So that's the smoke ring that they live in. The first book is called The Integral Trees, and it's about these various things that grow in this and survive in this area. So these trees are about 100 kilometers long. The tufts orbit too slow for the in tuft or too fast for the out tuft. So there's gale force winds at each tuft. You can see it in the picture here. This thing sticking out of the tree is actually a spaceship. It's called a ramship. In the storyline, 20 astronauts aboard a ramship colonized the smoke ring 500 years before the story. Their descendants have adapted to their culture into this free fall environment where there's no up or down, left or right. Without gravity, they live in people live in the trees. In the tufts, they've grown a lot taller than normal. They use their toes to grab onto things. It's a very interesting environment. There's any water in there is sort of a globe, right? Like there's these ponds, basically big balls of water that float around, and there's things swimming in them like you would like a pond back, a normal pond. Yeah, it's quite. The storyline revolves around there's an AI in the ship, and he's trying to piece together and save the humans and bring them back, but it's got a limited memory, so it keeps having to erase its memory in order to fit more stuff in there. And so it's kind of the AI is kind of schizophrenic. It doesn't know what's going on. It can't remember why it did certain things or if it did them before, that kind of thing. And then of course everybody else is just sort of living their lives and doing what they do, but they've forgotten everything about mostly about technology. They know technology exists, like there's these weird star things that could be very helpful, and they try to if they find them, they'll try to keep them and stuff, but they pretty much just sort of live on their own. Niven's very good with all the various different characters and different animals, and a well thought out how this world works. It's pretty bizarre. It's probably the most bizarre world I've sort of come around. I never would have thought that, hey, let's everybody lives in this big torus of air that goes around. Yeah, good story. I recommend it, and I'm pissed they didn't do a third book. Any comments?
Nope.
You've never read these, I guess?
No.
You're not a big Niven fan?
I'm trying to remember if I ever read any of his stuff.
He's pretty good.
Did he write Lucifer's Hammer?
Yeah, he did.
Okay,
yeah.
I read that.
With Jerry Purnell. He does a lot of stuff with Purnell.
Okay.
Yeah, Lucifer's Hammer is good. But that's a little less weird on the science stuff. Footfall is good by him, but those aren't really weird environments. Both of those happen on Earth. But yeah, well, if you liked Lucifer's Hammer, I got the Ringworld books. I haven't read them. Oh, you got to read them. Yeah, there's a lot more than in the books than I'm just giving you the environment. There's a lot more to them than that. Niven's got a whole cast of characters in his known universe that are, quite unusual. Most people know about the Man Kazin Wars, which are the Kazin are these 10-foot big cats. They're basically like tigers, and they have a war with humans. And I think they're the least interesting characters, races that he puts in there. He's got, the puppeteers are very interesting. A herd species that gets sentient, and then the Gwa, which are in some of his later books. Niven's not dead yet, but I haven't seen him writing much. I think he's not really writing anymore, but I don't know. Does it have to be a setting which humans live in? There are novels where humans are not the main characters. For it to be a weird science fiction setting? No, it doesn't. But these are the sort of the weirdest that I've the ones I've come across here. There are other weird settings like Hirot's Legacy. I thought about that one. I don't think that's, if we're thinking the same one. I didn't think it was that weird. I mean, it's humans on a planet. Now there are some weird characters on the weird species on the planet, and that's very integral to the story. But I didn't consider that to be too unusual because it's, we've come to another planet. You got to deal with what's there. Yeah. Used bookstores are quite good. Yeah. And Niven's very good about naming his planets. There's one planet where the whole planet is covered in clouds except for this huge mountain at this plateau at the top. We only live on the plateau, and it's called Mount Look at That. That's what everybody calls it. Another one called We Made It. It's the name of the planet. Yeah, that kind of stuff. All right. So check out the Smoke Ring and the Integral Trees if you want to have a very unusual, probably the most unusual one that I'm going to point out tonight. River World, another very interesting one by one of my favorites, Philip Jose Farmer. So in this story, the River World it's a world that's been terraformed, and it has a giant river that snakes around the entire planet, going from south to North Pole and back and forth. It's got the North Pole is the mouth of the river, and the south is the exit. And if you're reading here, every human who's ever lived and died, from the earliest Neanderthals up to not 1983. That's a spoiler. Up to 2008 is resurrected on the banks of this endless river on this unknown planet, and there's about 36 billion of us, and we're provided with food. There's these things called these giant mushrooms with 700 indentations. Have a grail, which is basically a lunch pail, like basically a sort of like the size of something you'd carry a scroll in or something like that. And you put it into this indentation, and 3 times a day, this blast of electricity comes up, and it's filled with everything you need to eat. So basically, everything is taken care of for us. You've got, if there's plentiful, like bamboo, you could fish, that kind of thing, but no minerals. So you can't. We're basically at a very low level of technology, and people are there, and they're like, "Well, what the heck's going on? What are we supposed to do?" So as you can imagine, what would happen? It's as I say here, the novel explores the interactions of resurrected individuals from many different cultures and time periods. And the underlying theme is quasi-religious, because of course people think they know that they died, they wake up, their bodies are perfect. They're at 25 years old. Everything's taken care of for them. They can't speak to each other, but there's religions come up. All the religions are basically, thrown away because none of them fits this. And, new religions come up and people, kind of think, hey, well, I guess what are we supposed to do here? And there's a lot of conflict at the beginning of the book. People start fighting with each other, and they organize, and then they kill each other a lot. But if you die, you wake up the next morning on the bank of the river in some different place on the river. So people kind of figure out, we can't die. Maybe we're supposed to. Maybe this is like purgatory. Maybe it's an afterlife. Maybe we're supposed to be, trying to make ourselves better. So that's what kind of the story. That's the overall setting of the story. In the author kind of uses this as a way for him to, put all the characters that he thought was cool throughout history into one spot, and he can write about them. So there are a few certain characters who want to find out what the mystery of the river is, and so we get to meet Sir Richard Francis Burton, who's the main character of the entire series. Mark Twain, Odysseus, Cyrano de Bergerac, Hermann Goring, Tom Mix, a whole bunch of others. So they either solo or in groups try to go to the mouth of the river to find out what the heck is going on. So so that's the whole story. 5 books altogether. He's got a bunch of short stories too that look over various follow various different new characters. The best one is the one that I think is when he's followed Jesus, the guy who thinks he's Jesus or might be Jesus. Yeah. So that's a good one. So that's a pretty interesting world, I thought. Cam, have you seen this one?
No.
There's a TV show, 2010. That's the picture. You can't see the picture very well, but that's taken from a 2010 television show, I think, about it. Didn't do very well. Wasn't that good. Yeah. Sci-Fi did an adaptation of the River World. Did it do the books any justice? I haven't seen it. I haven't even bothered, even though it's one of my favorite stories. I don't, this is a pretty hard to do justice to that world. Like, very, very, I don't think I'd want to take on the job, but, I haven't seen it. Maybe it's good, but I think it only did 1 or 2 seasons. It didn't do very that well. I mean, you could do an infinite number of seasons in this setting. Oh, Death Angel Shadow, you saw it and you said you didn't hate it. Well, that's not a ringing endorsement, but if you didn't hate it, then it's not horrible, right? All right. Okay, let's move on to another one by Philip Jose Farmer. Just before we go to this, Farmer inserts himself in the book as well. He has one of the characters is a science fiction writer called Peter Jarius Frigate. Peter Jarius Frigate, which is Philip Jose Farmer PJF. So he puts his little self-insert into the book. Good book, good series. Highly recommend it. The first 4 are really good. The last one kind of sums it up, but not as good, I don't think. But I recommend the first 4 for sure. I'd still read the 5th one, of course, to find out what happens. But anyway, yeah. Let's go on. The World of Tears is also by Farmer. So in this story, you've got we have these people they call lords, and they are highly advanced. They look like humans. They're highly advanced. They've used their technology to create what they call pocket universes. And one of the biggest pocket universes is our solar system. So apparently, people found out that, I thought this was interesting, Cam, because when I remember when Voyager 2 or Voyager 1 was going outside the solar system, I was wondering if it was going to hit a wall, right? Because in this story, our solar system just goes out to the edge here. And then, our solar system is one of the biggest pocket universes. Most of them are smaller than that. But, apparently, and that's how people found out that there was, that there are pocket universes, and then, did the work to try to figure out how to do it, because they were exploring their solar system, and they were getting to the edge of it, and it just sort of stopped. It doesn't go anywhere. Like, hey, that's not supposed to happen. So yeah. So the Thoans, they've they've had everything taken care of for them. They're immortal. They have all this knowledge. They can build their own universes. So what people did was they all went off and basically built their own little universes and lived in them by themselves. But then they got bored, so they started raiding each other's universes and trying to steal them. And meanwhile, of course, the scientists who know how to build these universes are being captured and killed. And so now we're in a situation where no one knows how to build these universes anymore. They can sort of figure out and have the tools maybe to get between the universes. At certain points, people have made gates that you can get between them, and so they've kind of fallen. And the story follows. The first story follows Jadwin to going through the universe, but then the next stories follow someone else, another character looking for Jadwin. But there's the type of universes in these types of pocket universes in these in the books are quite varied and interesting. And these Thoans are, it's kind of a game to go in and kill another lord from another place. So they mainly set traps for people. I've set a bunch of traps, but every trap they've got this sort of cultural thing. They got to set a trap. You got to have a way to get out of it. There's some way, if you're smart enough, you can figure out how to get out of it. But it's pretty tough. Yeah. So this slide here is talking about, I'll just go forward through the world of tears, which is the overall name of the story. And this might be a little hard to see here, but if you could see in this
world of tears, that's what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of tiers to it. So there's the lowest tiers around here, this sort of thin thing around there, and each tier has the guy who built this. He's got a different group of people living on each tier and a different level of technology, except for the very dot in the very top there. That's his palace, which has got all the fancy stuff in there, anti-gravity, all the high technology stuff. But everybody else is kept at a various different levels of technology. And there's actually two solar systems. He's got our solar system where we've just let everything go, and then he's got another solar system which is exact copy of ours, but where the lords they did an experiment. They're like, all right, let's just let this Earth go and see what happens and what we do with it. And the story's set in the 60s, so it's a bit of a commentary on how we've let our planet go to crap. And meanwhile,
that's right, dirty hippies.
That's right, the hippies and the nuclear weapons and everything. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, the world of tears. Some really interesting worlds. Way more unusual than the world of tears too. There's one this is one that's made out of. It's kind of made out of like plasticine almost, and various parts of it keep breaking off. And you'll be on a big part, it might break off. Like a piece like the size of a continent might break off. Every so often, a piece the size of a moon breaks off, and then you'll be stuck on that moon. And then at some point, it's going to go back and hit with the other part, and you're like, well, how am I going to survive the moon crashing into the Earth? Basically, yeah. So interesting. There's all kinds of them.
Weird. Right. Yeah,
it's pretty weird. All right, this one here I haven't read. It's called the story is called All of an Instant. I thought I should mention it when I was doing my research looking for weird science fiction environments. So the focus of the novel is time. The lower half of time is called the flux and is solid and subject to cause and effect. The upper half is called the instant. It's a surging ocean whose every wavelet changes reality in the flux. Whoever controls the instant controls reality, and therefore the instant is a perpetual battleground where time warriors struggle to impose their notion of perfection on the flux, and attempt to enslave the time-bound folk and turn them into new warriors. So that's a very short very short description of what the book is about. But it's basically this. It's about a war in the instant and trying to control time. So I'm like, well, that's a pretty interesting idea for a novel. This Richard Garfinkel. I haven't read any of these, but he's kind of known for very unusual and weird settings. So his main book, which is much more well known than All of an Instant, is called Celestial Matters, set in an alternate universe with different laws of physics. Published in 1996. Physics of the world and its surrounding cosmos are based on the physics of Aristotle and ancient Chinese Taoist alchemy. So what they thought back in Aristotle's time about how the world works, that's how the world actually works.
Oh,
so I'm like, well, that's an interesting concept. I have to read that and figure out
so
how does that.
When you take the heavy object and the light object, the heavy object falls way faster.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's I gotta check it out. Like, that's a very interesting idea. Yeah. Okay, what do we got next? Oh, Aeon by Greg Bear. Another set of stories that I recommend. It's like Aeon and then Eternity. So in this story, this asteroid, big asteroid, appears. Over, it comes in from the solar system, comes into Earth, and inside it's hollowed out, and inside is 7 chambers, and each chamber has various life and that sort of thing. But the real thing is the seventh chamber contains the infinite way. So it's basically, you can kind of see this is like a fan fic art of it, but it's basically, it's got it goes infinitely beyond, on the inside, and there's a tunnel that goes on forever. And the story centers around the people who come in and go into the let's check this asteroid out. The various nations of Earth. It's written in 95. So Greg Bear, the setting is 2005, but Greg Bear assumes the Cold War is still going on. So there's a conflict going on between the Chinese, the Americans, and the Russians. They go on to the way, and the appearance of this asteroid actually precipitates a nuclear war on Earth. So anyway, so the people, we move in. Some of us move into the asteroid and start living there, and then we start to explore the way. But meanwhile, there are while they're exploring, they get captured by the descendants of the stone's creators, who live about 1,000,000 kilometers down the way and about 1,200 years in the future. So there's some thought about whether this comes back. This is the humans that we meet, 1,000,000 miles down the way, are actually the humans that are exploring it now, and there's some sort of time paradox. So some major themes that are going on: genetic engineering, human augmentation, parallel universe, alternate timelines, manipulation of space-time, information technology, and virtual realms. That's a big aspect of it, and I think I was telling you about this before, Cam. I don't think I explained it very well, but the people in the hexarchy, they call themselves, the ones who are 1,000,000 miles down the way, they're able to store, transmit, and replicate parts of their memory and their personality. They call them partials or ghosts. So that's where you have people, like I said, I think I mentioned this on the show before. They have people who are one of the characters in the hexarchy. He decides to have a son, so he takes a piece of his own personality, and they put it in the computer, mix it with some other stuff, and then his son lives virtually in the computer for a couple years, and he spends some time, every so often he'll come out of the real world and go into the virtual world and interact with his son, and they can interact, like a year can go by and it's only a week, maybe, of real time or whatever. And then once his son has reached like his teens, 20, he then takes his memory out of the computer and puts it into a real body, and they'll set up their own bodies as very without any augmentation, sort of like us, or they can have all kinds of different other augmentations. So it's kind of an interesting a look at. I found those things were sort of the closest to what we're looking at. Now this whole idea of memory and persona and putting it into the computer and stuff and living in there. That's quite interesting. So, I think that's it's the bizarre part is not the stone itself. It's when you get to the part where you're talking about the humans who are in the way. Living down a million miles down the way, and actually, you go every so often the way. I guess every mile or whatever. There's a sort of a doorway, and you can go into that, and that is another infinite sort of universe in there. And they trade between people. They find that there's other aliens that are living different parts of the way, and they're trading between them. Time it goes faster as you go further down the way, because the humans at a million miles down are fighting some aliens called the Jarts, who are like at 3.2 billion miles down. So it's kind of, and there's a storyline where some of them decide, hey, a couple of explorers decide, hey, let's go to the end of the way. Let's drive all the way to the end and see what's there. So there's some pretty weird concepts that they are exploring. All right, Cam, take us back to reality a bit.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? You have any comments on?
No. Sorry, I wish I could participate more, but I'm just not familiar with these.
Too bizarre.
Some of them are for me. It's like I don't know. There's a certain era and you might kick me off the show after I say that. There's a certain era in sci-fi that I know I don't know that much about, and what I do know doesn't grab me. And it's kind of this. Well, it's fairly old now, but let's say 80s, 90s kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It just seems like we talk about classic sci-fi a lot, right? Where those kinds of things grab me. This seems just kind of like like a strip mall that hasn't hasn't been updated. It just seems like kind of junky, and I don't want to bash any particular thing here, but it just seems like it was kind of I'm sure at the time it seemed new and interesting, and but unlike some classic sci-fi, it doesn't seem to hold up as a concept as well.
Yeah, you don't think so?
Yeah, and if you allow me to tangent for a second here,
Of course.
and a little spoiler is we talked about a possible show about 80s anime and things like that, and which is it, and I mention that because it's kind of a strange contrast, because if I look at 70s 80s anime, sci-fi specifically stuff, it's like in my mind that is like it has the same feel as like classic sci-fi, and I'm probably not explaining myself very well here though, but I guess it because it was new and fresh for that format, anime being kind of relatively new at that time, whereas these novels, it's like they're in the stale zone. You know what I'm saying? It's like it wasn't new and or classic, and it's kind of in that middle child zone of storytelling, kind of. At least that's my perception of it. I'm sure there are some great stories in there in that era, but it's just not one that thrills me.
Yeah, I just these stories are, in my view, they're still well written. The characterization, they've got lots of character. The writers are good. It's just I'm not focusing on it. We're talking about the environments and how unusual they are to modern, to sort of mainstream science fiction. I mean, you're right. We start out with, and you start in the 40s and 50s, and you have something like Foundation, and it's like, oh, a galactic empire. Wow, what a cool concept, right? But
Yeah.
now that's kind of like, okay, well, that's not really that strange, right? So these things are a little,
Yes,
you get to the
and
70s and 80s, and everyone's like, hey, let's make it really weird. Let's
right,
do something.
and another, I'd put that as kind of, they're reaching, it's like they're stretching. It's like, well, it's got to be different. I need something that someone else hasn't done because it's sci-fi, and uh,
Now you think that's what you feel? Oh, okay. Yeah.
yes, I think it is. I think it's probably inherent to sci-fi in some degree that they have to keep. If you're just doing the same old thing, we're like, oh, we already saw that. Sci-fi has this futuristic thing, and I think as a creator that translates to has to be different, and so then you're getting kind of farther afield and weirder in a bad way. Um, and I'm not saying that all these are bad. I'm just saying that I think that's a failing or a difficulty in sci-fi. You
Whoops.
disagree? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, the classics are always the best. The 80s and 90s seem to try too hard and have a tendency to overword themselves.
Mm,
Um, I mean,
yeah,
I don't really agree. I mean, I grew up on these early 80s, not 90s so much, but 80s kind of sci-fi. I personally enjoy these kind of stories. They push the limits of your imagination, so to speak. I appreciate the other ones too. Um, I need to go into more modern science fiction and find some other weird stuff. I've found some stuff that's a little bit weird as well, but I have sort of I avoided it here. These some of them they're strange in different ways. They're not the environments are not as strange, but some of the other aspects of them are a little bit unusual. Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
It seems
Sorry.
like people might be agreeing with Weatherman.
Yeah. It's what. Yeah. I mean, sure, of course. And the last one that I have in here is called. I've mentioned this one before. The Forever Watch. I keep mentioning because I like this story. So all that is left of humanity is on a 1,000-year journey to a new planet aboard one ship to Noah, which is also carrying a dangerous serial killer. So the reason that this one is kind of, it's a little less weird than the other ones. Um, uh, my wife's from Winnipeg, but I don't really like Winnipeg. So it's kind of a generation ship, but there's a huge mystery. That the mystery is supposedly about the serial killer, and it's interesting in that there's people the guy who's investigating the mysteries finds the people they're locked in their own room, and they're sort of torn apart, like they've been ripped to shreds, and he's like, how the heck nobody got in here, et cetera, et cetera. But that mystery is actually the least of the mysteries on the ship. So I do mention it. The people on the ship, they know that they left Earth, but they don't actually know why. Oh, Earth was dying and we left, but there's like no detail. They have no nature. They don't know the nature of the builders, the details of their escape. The murders are another mystery. And I found that the ship was interesting because we start to develop these psychic powers. Some people are better at it than others, of course. But the ship responds to psychic powers. Like you can mold the ship in certain ways and change the living environment if you have enough control and skill to do that. Of course, some portions of the ship can't be changed that way. Otherwise, people would be pulling holes in it and stuff. But the ship is kind of divided into chambers, and we're living in some of the chambers, but not all of them. And throughout the whole story, you're reading it and you're going, what the hell is going on? Why? It's just people are doing stuff. You're like, why are they doing that? And finally at the end, the entire story comes out. So you do find out in the end. But it was one of the few science fiction novels that I read where I didn't quite know where the end was going or what was going to happen. So it was right up to the end that I was sort of on my seat going, hey. I was looking at the some of the reviews for this book. Some people are like, it never gets going. It's too slow. I didn't find that at all. I thought it was a very good book. The writer hasn't written anything else and doesn't appear to be writing anything else. He was writing another book and then it's suspended writing it. So it's like he wrote this book and then he said, "Screw it, I'm not writing anymore," for whatever reason. I don't know why. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it, and I thought it was a little bit not as weird as the other ones, but with the ship, and the escape from Earth, you don't know what's going on. It's sort of the sight, the idea that your ship is, the material is sort of psychically in tune, and you can shape it to a limited level based on that. I thought that was kind of interesting, and I threw it in there as being weird. Yeah.
Super.
All right, Cam, go.
Okay, we may have mentioned. Wait a minute, you want me to move on to the one thing I've got to talk about?
Do you want to? Is there any other, science fiction weird environments before we move on to what you were going to talk about? Any other science fiction environments you want to throw in from the more? I'm a little bit, keen under these weird sci-fi stuff. From a more normie perspective, are there any ones that you think are a little bit, from movies or whatever that you wanted to mention that might be a little more well known?
You see,
I put you on the spot too much. Dark City is super freaky. I don't know.
That's a good one, Jay. That is pretty interesting.
Dark City? Which one is that? Is that a movie? A movie called Dark City?
Yeah.
The one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, when was that? Late 90s, early 2000s?
1998.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Jennifer Connelly. Yeah. I don't think I've seen the whole thing like all together. Yeah, tech noir. Yeah.
Well, no, I don't have anything to match your artificial delineation between what you're talking about and what I'm talking about. I have one. It just sure.
Dark City is a Matrix for smart people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Gurdjieff.
Anybody in the chat want to mention any other, maybe more common, more well-known? The Matrix was fairly, it's fairly unusual when it came out as a unusual idea for science fiction. No one had really put it together like that, so detailed. Yeah, but Twilight was pretty weird. Okay, now you're just trolling, right?
Banned.
Sparkly vampires. I don't want to talk about that. All right, Cam wanted to talk about. Go ahead, Cam.
Okay, so we may, longtime listeners may have recalled that we talked about, or briefly mentioned at least, there was a sci-fi based game that came out in 98 or 99, I think, called Vor the Maelstrom. And it just so happens that a lot of it revolves around the setting, which I'll talk about in a second. It's a miniature war game. It's a tabletop miniatures war game. So it's along the lines of Warhammer 40K. I'm sure that the people that made it had experience with 40K. I know that for a fact. In fact, but it came out by FASA, which we've referred to them with in a variety of ways. With talking about Earth Dawn and such recently, and Shadowrun, and those kinds of things. So yeah, miniatures, Michael. Anyway, the setting for like I said, it's a sci-fi based series or game, and the weird setting portion of it is the Maelstrom, this whole thing. So what it is it is some sort of other dimensional place that grabs things from our universe and maybe other ones. The one thing about it is this wasn't finished. It kind of got its legs chopped out from under it. But what we do know is that it pulls things from our universe into it, and because part of the story is that Earth and the Moon are pulled out of our solar system into the maelstrom, which is kind of a like I said, whether it's its own dimension or not, I don't know. But in the middle of it is this thing called the maw, which is um, it's like a super sun black hole kind of combination. It's not black. It's actually is glowing white energy source, but it's they say, oh, it's like a strength of a million suns. So the maelstrom is actually huge. I don't know that I could describe how huge it is, but it is very large. And and on the outside of it there's this thing called the veil, which is basically this smoky undulating mass that you can't go into, but that's how these things come in through there. So for example, when earth gets pulled in, it comes through the veil, um, and then into it. And the arrangement is, it's you basically have the maw in the center, which destroys everything, and then you have the inner ring. It's three-dimensional, but it's called the inner ring. And then where it's just basically a complete chaotic storm of destruction. It's basically, if you're there, things don't last very long, and it's just debris and everything that's on its way of getting pulled into the maw, and that's everything is slowly getting dragged into the maw. And then you have the central ring, which is a relatively densely populated area of planets and asteroids and partially destroyed planets and all these crazy things. And there uh, a lot of collisions going on there. And then you have the outer ring, which is relatively peaceful. It's still very chaotic and crowded compared to a solar system, let's say. And things are, again, instead of having a planar orbits, they're orbiting in 3 dimensions, all over the place. So it's irregular, and you wouldn't have like one planet in a ring. You'd have many on a given plane. But the other feature of it, the weird part of, even weirder part of it, is that uh, there's unusual combinations of things that happen. So physics are not regular in this. In one place you have physics that work another way, and then you end up with something else, and worlds merge together, and there's all these alien races and all this crazy stuff. Now it was built to be a game, so the idea was that it would present you infinite opportunities to have different kinds of armies and things that you would battle with each other. But uh, you know, because of the theme of the show here, I was just going over the settings. So there's all kinds of crazy stuff that happens, and the idea is you can make up more as you go along. You make your own things to do it. But it features a variety of different alien races as kind of the core group, where it started out. And there is a storyline that I'm somewhat more aware of than what was published, because I know some of the creators, some of the writers and things, and they there was a storyline that would go with all of this and how this thing came to be. But so it's in my head I envision it as like a gigantic solar system, but it's probably somewhere between a solar system and a galaxy in size. But they do go between planets and things, and there's space anomalies. Like there were some novels for this too. So like, for example, in the novels, an Earth ship that doesn't have you know uh, light speed travel, it is able to traverse things, because again the physics are different here. So um, it's it was a cool setting for a game, and the novels that I read, also pretty cool. um, and it is weird, so I just thought I'd mention it. And this is not at all um, based on my desire to run up the price of the one of the few remaining unopened starter sets of this and sell it on eBay.
Is there any is it still published, any of this stuff?
No, it is long dead.
Long
Um,
dead. Oh, no,
I,
even the novels.
yeah, I mean, you might be able to find them somewhere. I have them. I think I have all of them. I think there were only 5.
So it's not like you could post a link to people checking
Mm,
it out or anything.
no, I'm afraid I
It
didn't.
doesn't
I mean,
really.
you might be able to find it on Amazon or something is for used, but they're definitely not. You wouldn't be able to find them new. Um, I guess that's all I was going to say about it. But it's. Oh, I was just going to mention that. So I don't know if anybody is familiar. FASA again. You're familiar with these. They produced BattleTech at one point and all these other things, and the owner of the company, or the son of the owner, I guess, Jordan Weissman is who's a name in, you might recognize from if you're in the gaming world. He invented a game called Mage Knight, which was a kind of I think it was a blind box kind of game, where you bought miniatures and you got randomized miniatures and things like that. So it was the first was kind of, and then that game morphed into a different version, which HeroClix, which had DC and Marvel, and I think it's still going to this day. But basically, this was after Magic the Gathering had come around, and it was kind of a big thing, and it took off and was. And they kind of, my view is that they kind of sold out FASA for the benefit of Mage Knight, and it basically killed the FASA, and a lot of the properties. And Vor was one of the ones that was, tied up because of that, and attempts to revive it failed, and so on and so forth for a lot of different reasons. But that's just some side notes. But really cool game. I mean, it was a lot of inventive things with really good for gaming, and in my opinion, really interesting for stories. So.
You're quieting down there a bit.
Oh, well, sorry. Michael's asking if it sounds like a separate universe or a universe pinched out from the main one. Yeah, I think I think the idea is that it did pull things into its own dimension. So, and within the story, no one is able to leave the maelstrom. So, as far as that is your universe once you're in there, and it's
stuck.
Yeah, and again, Earth got pulled in and stayed in the outer ring where it basically survived. But a lot of worlds just get pulled in and destroyed immediately, or because again, everything eventually spirals into the maw and destroyed. So there's all kinds of predatory races that either that you adapt to survive or you don't. So a world comes in there and they don't have any idea what happened to them or how they got there, and so they're trying to survive. And then you have these bad guys that'll come and try and destroy and take kill everybody, take all their stuff. So it's a very brutal kind of setting.
Yeah. All right. Okay, well, I think that's all we have for our weird sci-fi. Hopefully that you've piqued your interest in some of these properties, or if not, you'll go out and find your own or write your own weird sci-fi. What do we got coming up on the show?
Well, we got a movie night coming up, right?
Movie night? What? When's that?
Next week.
Next week already? All right, next week we're gonna do movie night. We're gonna do Cam's favorite movie. Which movie is that, Cam? You want to tell?
THX 1138.
THX 1138 by the famous George Lucas. Before there was Star Wars, there was THX 1138, and I haven't seen the whole thing. I've only seen bits and pieces of it here and there when it's been on TV and stuff. I flip it around like, oh, what's this? And I watch, a third of it or the last half or something. You want to give us a breakdown of this? It's kind of weird, isn't it?
Well, it's a dystopian thing. I think it was his student film essentially when he was in film school, and then it was made into a regular released film afterwards. I think it was his first one after his film school, after graduate film school, and then after that he made American Graffiti, and then I think Star Wars. So you could say it's his first professional film, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Lots of bald people in it.
Yeah, yes, it is. It's like I said, it's a dystopian future thing.
Lots of white. Like to use
color
white.
Yeah, they're well. Am I gonna spoil everything? Yeah.
I'm not spoiling. I'm just.
It was
spoiling anything. Come on.
Back in the old days, when Star Wars first came out, it was one of those. It was like you would grab anything about it. So I remember there being books about Star Wars or George Lucas and everything in the making of it, and that's the first place I ever saw anything about TH6138. They had a little blurb about it or something in this. I think it was called the Star Wars album. They had all this development stuff, a lot of Ralph McQuarrie art and all that, but it was this thing about TH6138, and one of the things in there is like you said, these white sets where it's basically just an infinity. I don't know, Death Angel Shadow. That's maybe. But anyway, and then they had like these the police were like these like robot biker cops is what they kind of looked like. And they had
Silver faces.
Yeah, right. So that was kind of a memorable thing. Anyway, it's we'll see. It's one of those things. It's like it's like, is this a movie I want to watch a lot? No, but in my mind, again, because of it's George Lucas and everything, it's one of those things I would recommend people watch as a point of interest. Again, I don't know that it's enjoyable, if any dystopian thing can be enjoyable. It reminds me a little bit, in terms of feel, of 1984, the movie 1984.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily that the story is the same, but it has that same sort of depressing feel to it. As many dystopias would, I suppose. But
So when you're watching the movie, no, don't be drinking or cleaning your sidearms or anything. Eh?
no, yeah, it might push you over the edge, right?
Don't do that. All right. So, is it on YouTube for free? On the not on YouTube, but it is up there for free on the Internet Archive, and on the links in the description of the show. I've already got it up there. It's all good to go. Check on the channel. It's in the description. It's got the link to the Internet Archive.
Now,
and if you want to use that,
Yeah.
you can. And just all I did was I just searched Internet Archive movie THX 1138, and it came right up.
And we should note, for anyone who wasn't sure, is we're not watching the movie during the show. We're basically kind of saying, hey, we're going to watch this movie, and then we gather together.
We're going to talk about it.
Discuss it, right, the next, afterwards. So if you want to watch the movie and join the chat, of course, we love that. So
that's right. And that's what, and we're going to try to do a movie night once a month-ish, maybe one out of every 4, roughly whenever we feel like it. And we're going to try to pick a movie that everybody can see. So hopefully something that's on the Internet Archive, and usually science fiction and something a little bit back in the past. So that gives us Cam and I wrote up a list of about 40 different movies that would sort of fit the bill. We got to check them out. I'll figure out what we'll do for the next one. But yeah, we want to give you enough updates so that you can do it for next show if you still want to. And what else? We got something else coming up on Wednesday, I think.
Oh yeah. Babylon 5 episode.
Babylon 5 show
7.
Our usual episode 7, the War Prayer, right? I think that's what it's called. Yeah, the War Prayer. I've already watched. I watched it once. I didn't. Yeah, I usually kind of do 2 watches. First watch, I just sort of relax and just watch, and then the second watch is when I get the pen and paper out.
Just here to watch. You were talking about dystopian future worlds. We did do an episode which I just linked in the chat of dystopian sci-fi. So we do touch on that. Episode 7, it looked like. So if you want to check that episode out, that might give you some what you're looking for.
Yeah, and don't be and if not, don't be afraid to put a question in the chat or whatever. Cam and I both go over them all, and if you're looking for a book suggestion, or I don't know, hey, I like this kind of sci-fi. What do you guys think might fit the bill? I've probably read some of it. If not, I'll tell you. I can usually suggest if people ask, on Twitter or whatever, they say, hey, give me a good book to read. And I'm like, I can't do that. You got to give me something. You got to say, I like this. I read this and I thought this was really good. Can you give me something that's like that? And I might be able to help you out there. point you in the right direction, but you got to give a little bit more than that. But yeah, hopefully. Yeah, so Babylon 5 on Wednesday, and Death Angel Shadow is going to be there. And I think Jason will be there too, because I think he's back. He got back last night or something. So I think he's going to be back on the show.
Yeah, I think Jason's got a show going tomorrow. In fact, at
He's got his own show,
Live in the Bunker.
Yeah, Live from the Bunker tomorrow, and then he'll be. I'm not sure what else he's doing. I'm sure if you show up on his show tomorrow, you'll find out what he's doing for the rest of the week. I think he's got an interview tomorrow, maybe.
Hold on 1 second. I will get a link.
Sure. And then I think he'll be on Wednesday, and yeah, we're done. And then next Sunday for THX 1138, and no drinking during while you're watching. And that's it.
Maybe
that's it for our show.
Maybe some people work better if you are drinking.
No drinking and cleaning weapons.
Depends on if you're a happy or a sad drunk.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm a happy drunk and then I'm a sad drunk, or not? Sorry, I'm a happy drunk and then after a while I become an angry drunk. Depends on how far you go.
When you start to sober up, is that how it goes?
Depends on how far you go. Yeah. All right. So yeah. All right. That's what we got coming up. I think that's it for the show. Did we forget anything? I think that was everything. Did I miss anything, Cam?
Nope, absolutely not.
No, that's it.
Yep. Oh well, you have a neglected sponsorship for quite a few weeks.
I have neglected Well, the sponsors they're not coming. They're not interested. They haven't. I had a couple there at the beginning, and now they're just. You know what? Maybe this week I'll lean on them a little bit more. See if we can get you lean on the tool guys. I'll lean on the other guys. Maybe I can get some of those sponsors back again.
Great.
See if we can get them on. All right, that's a good point. All right, one last thing we forgot, and Death Angel Shadow's favorite part of the show is, of course, the joke. We're gonna have the joke. All right, I got two here, Cam. Two sci-fi related jokes. All right. What is the most scientific pet? The most scientific pet.
Let's see. What is the most scientific pet? I don't know.
It's the lab. Get it? The Labrador, like a Labrador. Like it's the lab, and a lab is a place where you do science types experiments and stuff, and it's also a dog.
Yeah.
Get it?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you? All right. One more. Do you know? Do you speak Spanish at all? Know any Spanish, Ken?
No, I don't.
Not even a little bit. Like.
See.
Like taco, see, see. Yeah, okay, that should be enough. But to get this joke, what do you call a nap in computer science class?
I'm sorry, you glitched out there. What?
Oh, did I? I kind of gave you a hint already, but okay. What do you call a nap in computer science class?
A nap in computer science class. I don't know. What is? What do you call a nap in computer science?
A siesta. CS for like computer science, and siesta, which is like Spanish for nap, or like right, a siesta, computer science.
That's great.
Get it?
I don't think you could top a joke that funny, so we probably shouldn't even try.
That's it. That's it for tonight, because we can't get anything better than that. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Next Sunday, come in for our movie night, and don't forget
like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe and all that good stuff in the chat. Ask your questions in the chat. Berate us, whatever you want. And and don't forget Babylon 5 on Wednesday. Good night, everyone. See you later. Thanks for coming out.
Bye.
Night.